Time for another episode chosen by popular demand, as this week we look at the history of another of the all-time great Transformers, the coolest Autobot of them all, Jazz. The toy that would become the original Jazz was first released as part of the Japanese Diaclone toy line in 1983, and was imported by Hasbro to become part of the first year of the Transformers toy line in 1984. The toy transformed into a Porsche 935, sporting the specific Deco and Martini sponsorship logos of the real-life car that won the 1976 World Sports Car Championship for makes. Marvel Comics writer Bob Budiansky wrote a profile for Jazz that characterized him as the Autobot's special operations agent and saboteur, as well as Optimus Prime's right-hand man. A daring, stylish, and all-around cool dude who loved Earth culture, particularly music and dance, a love he could even put to use on the battlefield by using built-in lights and speakers to disorient and deafen Decepticons. In the Marvel comic book, Jazz's personality made him a key player in some early stories, as the Autobots tried to acclimate to life on Earth. He was the one to acquire the Autobots a steady fuel supply by establishing relations with human businessman G.B. Blackrock. And in an eerie tale from the United Kingdom's version of the comic, he befriended the young Sammy Harker to gain intel about Cybertronian activity on Earth. Conversely, the Transformers animated series initially chose to focus on Jazz's role as Optimus Prime's right-hand man, with the show's pilot miniseries depicting him as responsible for organizing the Autobot ranks for battle. As the series went on, however, Jazz would never really be shown to have that level of authority again. He was more likely to be found chilling out, enjoying tunes. He was one of the more frequently appearing Autobots in the cartoon's first 2 seasons, with notable adventures that included saving the other Autobots after the Decepticons reprogrammed them for evil, and travelling to Saturn's moon Titan to free the natives from Decepticon oppression. Jazz's voice was provided by actor and musician Scatman Crothers, whose rich, gravelly tones combined with the Autobot's cool personality and slang-laden dialogue to make him one of the most uniquely recognizable and most popular Autobots of the era.
Man, if I could put on a light show that cool, I'd dazzle multitudes of music lovers.
Jazz's toy was discontinued in 1986 and he was phased out of both the comic and the cartoon, but unlike many other discontinued characters, this didn't mean he died. In the Transformers the movie, Jazz and Cliffjumper were consumed along with Cybertron's first moon by the monster planet Unicron, but were rescued during the film's climax, and Jazz even went on to make a few cameo appearances in the subsequent 3rd season of the cartoon and the Japanese exclusive sequel series Transformers The Headmasters. In the comic, meanwhile, injuries inflicted by a Decepticon-controlled copy of Optimus Prime did take Jazz offline, but he was revived to feature in further stories exclusive to the UK comic, including one in which he was lobotomized and used as a mind-controlled puppet by Galvatron, before eventually being deactivated once more, one of the many victims felled by a cosmically powered Starscream. Recognizing Jazz's popularity, Hasbro released a new toy of him in 1989. A classic pretender, a kind of Transformer who used an outer shell to masquerade as a human being. Though many fans have since observed that a Caucasian shell was a poor choice for Jazz. The release of this toy saw Jazz return to life in the pages of the comic, as Autobot medic Ratchet used pretender technology to repair him. The following year, a non-transforming Action Master figure of Jazz was released, his cool personality emphasized by his accessory, the Turbo Board, which transformed from gun to skateboard. And his original toy was re-released in Europe and Australasia as part of the Classics line of reissues. Both these releases ensured that Jazz maintained a presence in the comic for its final year, particularly in the UK series, in which he served in the Autobots' new Earth Force unit. The original Jazz toy was re-released again with a new deco and new accessories as part of the Transformers Generation 2 toy line in 1993, leading him to make a few appearances in Marvel's Generation 2 comic. And a new laser cycle toy of Jazz, in rather atypical green and yellow, was planned for release in 1995, but was cancelled. Jazz would be largely absent from Transformers during the years of the Beast era and the Unicron trilogy, but as one of the most famous Generation 1 Autobots, he inevitably began rising back to prominence in the mid-2000s, quickly becoming a reliable staple of the toy lines and media of the 21st century, in which he's enjoyed the privilege of being portrayed both visually and in terms of personality with a remarkable consistency that very few other Transformers characters can boast. Though certain details naturally change from series to series, he remains the same stylish, swinging, earth-loving culture junkie that he's been since 1984, with even the same basic physical shape and design cues. Though sadly, Porsche's refusal to allow Hasbro to use their trademark has meant no toys of him have ever been able to fully recreate his classic alternate mode. For instance, the first major new incarnation of Jazz, introduced in the live-action movie in 2007, transformed into a Pontiac Solstice instead of a Porsche. He was Optimus Prime's first lieutenant, who eagerly adopted Earth speech patterns and dance moves after arriving on the planet and scanning the internet.
This looks like a cool place to kick it.
Sadly, he didn't make it out of the first movie alive, as he was torn in two by Megatron when he tried taking the Decepticon leader on alone. But subsequent toy releases and comics would feature stories where he was brought back to life by the power of the Allspark. 2008 saw the introduction of the Transformers animated version of Jazz, a Hepcat cyber ninja armed with a pair of laser nunchaku, who served as a member of the Cybertron Elite Guard. He often had to play peacemaker when his boss Sentinel Prime butted heads with Optimus Prime, and eventually, tired of Sentinel's attitude, he decided to leave and hang out with Optimus's crew for a while, where he helped fellow martial artist Prowl complete his cyber ninja training. Had a fourth season of animated been produced, it would have seen Jazz formally quit the Elite Guard and join Optimus's team full-time, but these plans never came to fruition. The aligned continuities incarnation of Jazz first hit screens in 2010's War for Cybertron video game, with the game's tie-in novel, Transformers Exodus, establishing that he was Orion Pax's best friend in the days before the war broke out, before Orion became Optimus Prime. The 2012 sequel, Fall of Cybertron, allowed players to control Jazz for a level that paired him with Cliffjumper to investigate Decepticon activity in the Sea of Rust, with a toy based on Jazz's appearance in the game being concurrently released in the Transformers Generations toy line. This Jazz would reappear in 2015's Robots in Disguise toy line and cartoon, first coming to Earth to investigate the crash of the prison ship Alcamore and help Bumblebee's team round up escaped Decepticon Ped, then returning for the series finale to join in defending the planet against a Decepticon invasion. Outside of movies, TV, and games, Jazz's most sizable role has been in the world of IDW Publishing's comic books. In IDW stories, Jazz was one of the first Autobots active on Earth in the modern day, and temporarily served as Autobot leader when Optimus Prime was injured. But his most defining act came when he was forced to shoot and kill a human police officer to prevent the man from killing Bumblebee with a Cybertronian gun. The ramifications of this act would haunt Jazz for years, and made the Autobots' future attempts to work with humanity a challenge. Though his efforts repeatedly landed him in the crosshairs of G.I. Joe, Jazz dedicated himself to proving that humans and Transformers could coexist peacefully, even when it meant going against Optimus Prime, as was the case when Jazz went rogue to round up all the remaining illegal Cybertronian weapons on Earth. With the recent announcement of a Jazz figure for the Transformers Cyberverse toy line indicating we'll be seeing him in the Cyberverse cartoon somewhere down the line, it's clear that Jazz will continue to bring his classic unchanging looks and style to the Transformers universe for a long time to come. After all, to quote the bot himself, if it's not done with style, it's not worth doing. And those are the basics on Jazz. As always, head down to the comments section and let me know which version of the character you groove on. Hit the like and subscribe buttons while you're down there, click the bell to be notified about future episodes, or visit Patreon to get early access to new videos before everyone else.